All right, inside the training session where I cut a snippet out of some of my training sessions to give you some insight into perhaps a drill that we're performing, what we're trying to achieve, what I'm trying to get the player to do so that he can translate it onto the field and into some production. So in this particular session right here, I'm working with Tony Lippett, who is a cornerback for the New York Giants. And what we're discussing here is not allowing a wide receiver to work you head up. In other words, don't let the wide receiver get up on your toes and give him a two-way go, which puts you in a bad situation. Wide receivers are taught to run up on a defensive back's toes, try to get head up with him so that you can break either way on him and put him in conflict. And what we're discussing here is how we come out of that and don't allow the wide receiver to work us head up, get on our toes, and give himself a two-way go. So what you're going to, you won't be able to hear the audio, the actual audio at the time that I was talking to him. So I'm going to let you know what it is I was discussing with him here. And as I am here, I'm talking to him and I'm telling him exactly what it is a wide receiver is trying to do, how they're trying to come straight at you and work up onto your toes. And what you need to do as a defensive back in that situation is choose a side, as you see Tony doing right here. I'm telling him you need to choose a side and put that wide receiver on one side or the other, and then we'll proceed from there. Don't let him work you head up. Get into your space. So in other words, when he's at this distance that he is now, choose a side. Essentially, your cushion is broken enough that you need to come out of your back pedal. Don't come out of your back pedal directly in front of that wide receiver. Give yourself enough time to step to one side or the other. You don't want him to work you right here, because then now he could break this way, he could break that way, and put you in trouble. You also don't want the wide receiver to be able to get this close to you before you make that decision, because now his next step is going to be even with you, and by the time you make that full turn, he's about 2 or 3 strides past you, and you don't need me to tell you that that's going to be a bad situation. So when we're about this far away, you want to be able to make that decision, as I'm talking with here on Tony, and have him choose a side, okay? And then if the receiver is really trying to get to this other side of you, you're going to see now what I tell him he needs to do. Get to a side. We're going to walk back, and then we're going to run through this, and you're going to see what it is that we're doing here on this drill. So I told him once you do that, if the receiver really wants to be on the other side of you, he will try to do that. And now you've got a hip flip and use your arms. And Tony has very long arms. So as you see, I try to go to the other side. He shoots a hand and flips his hips, which is very important. So here's the full speed part of the drill. I'm working. I'm the receiver trying to work on his toes. You see him choose a side here. Now he's opened up. And I'm pretending that I'm the receiver who really wanted to be on the other side of him. So I'm going to try and attack his blind spot, right? Right now, this is Tony's blind spot. He doesn't have eyes in the back of his head to see here. And so I've told him, you don't want to let the receiver get into that spot right there where that X is. You want to keep him away from getting on your back. So what you're going to see is Tony's recognizing that I'm trying to change and go to his blind spot. He's going to shoot that hand into my chest to keep that spacing. You need this spacing right here. You don't want him to get all on top of you. So he's going to shoot that hand and then turn around, shoot the other hand, and execute a hip flip as opposed to a speed turn, because we don't want to get into the situation where we're doing the speed turn and now we've got the receiver seeing the back of our head where our eyes are not. Okay, we don't have eyes back there. And so we don't want to allow him to get back there. And I'm gonna, drop a clip in for you right here where you can see where speed turns in this situation are bad news for us. All right, and here's a couple of clips to show you how speed turns get us in trouble and why it's in your best interest to hip flip and shoot the arms like I'm trying to show Tony in the video that we've gotten in the training session. So here's a look at Antonio Brown working against Joe Haden. And as you can see here, Joe's open to one side of Antonio Brown, but Antonio wants to go to the opposite side of him. So instead of punching that hand out and getting a hip flip in, Hayden's gonna choose to go the speed turn route, okay? First, he lets him get to the blind spot. Now he's gonna execute the speed turn. Just this freeze frame right here alone is bad news. Look where the receiver is, look where the defensive back is. So now he executes the speed turn, he allows him in a blind spot. When he turns, guess what? Receiver's not there. Now he's attacking your blind spot again. And so you're way off. You didn't see the moves because you gave him the back of your head. He cuts back to your blind spot, sits there in the curl. That's why we want to opt for the hip flip. Turn into the receiver. Punch, turn into the receiver. So you see these moves. You see him changing direction and you can react to it. Slide up to something later on in the game. This is Antonio Brown again, working against Brent Grimes. All right, he's climbing up. He's closing his cushion. Brent Grimes is going to execute a speed turn, have his back to the wide receiver. He can't see anything from this position. Instead of executing the hip flip, which would have allowed him to turn into the receiver and see the change of direction, he's executed this speed turn, giving him the back of his head. And now, of course, Antonio Brown goes back, attacks the blind spot again, and now we as defensive backs are in a very, very poor position because we were not able to see the change of direction. Now, look how far Brent Grimes is now away from Antonio Brown. Totally off balance, totally way out of the picture, has really no real opportunity to get to a ball that wasn't even thrown very well. And Brent Grimes is a Pro Bowl type corner. But in this particular situation, just the wrong technique being used. So that's why I preach a lot on the hip flips and when a guy's close enough, using the punch. And on this clip, we're going to see this done the right way. This is the same wide receiver going against a different cornerback, which is Jason Verrett of the San Diego Chargers. And now you're going to see how hip flips help you see the wide receiver and be able to make better breaks on the wide receiver's change of direction. Here you can see Antonio Brown is attacking one side. Jason Verrett is to that one side as Antonio Brown tries to attack the blind side, which is his major, this is the major attack that he tries to make. This is his hallmark, attacking the blind side. You're going to see Verrett throw that hand out into the chest, hip flip, shoot the other arm, stab him in the chest, keep the space. Okay, Antonio Brown again tries to change direction, again shoots the hand in his chest, keeps the space, controls the wide receiver, and now he's got space to see this last break. And then as the ball comes, watch Verrett close out the space, get to his hip, and try to undercut the ball. Only thing he didn't do here was make the catch, but everything else was a thing of beauty. We're going to watch it full speed now. Shoots the hand, hip flip, shoot the hand, hip flip, shoot the hand, hip flip, close out the space, go make it. That's why I like the hip flips over the speed turns. Now coming back, you're going to see, pop that hand, make the hip flip, turn into the receiver, pop the hand, keep the space. Now I'm trying to flip back the other way. He's going to execute another hip flip and shoot the hand and keep the space. You want to keep the space while they're running the route, and then when the ball is coming, that's when you want to close out the space. So let's look at it full speed. I'm trying to work him head up. He picks a side, shoots a hand, hips flips, stays over the top, and that's the way that drill is done. And that is just shooting the hand, hip flips, staying on top. Being able to flip your hips is very, very important as a defensive back. And when you've got, you want to use your arms, and when you have arms like Tony does, extremely long arms, as you can see here, you have to use those to your advantage. Keep the wide receiver from getting into your space, and keep your space until that ball is coming. Anyway, thanks for listening, and appreciate you being a member. Any feedback on this, feel free to send me an email, cwilson@alleyesdbcamp.com. Again, thanks for being a member. All Eyes DB Camp, consistency breeds results.